Super excited to be back with everybody here. Why don't you guys talk a little bit more about what we can expect over the next couple weeks as we're doing more drawings, more giveaways.
Arla?
Expect us to give away a lot more. We're very excited about the products that we make, and we're glad that you're participating and becoming part of the Grace family, joining us here on YouTube and Facebook, and just get all your friends to join in as well. Vote on the beautiful quilts, participate that way. There's so much for you to be able to do. Because we can't make it to Houston, this is our way of bringing the Houston to you, and getting you to know you a little better, and for you to get to know us a little better as well. Our social distancing per se. So yeah, we've got more from Leah Day, we've got trunk shows, we've got lots more giveaways, and a lot of great quilters that are going to have classes, a lot of professional quilters as well. And so it's really exciting where Grace Company, this little teeny company, has come, and from all you.
Yeah, not only are the giveaways fun, the product knowledge, I think that's what I enjoy doing with all this is, over the phones is great to talk to you over the phone and talk about the product, but be able to see the product and get a better knowledge through this live event and with the questions that come in. That's been fun to see all the comments, but it's also been fun to talk about something that Carl and I both really have a passion about. And I don't quilt, but I love the product that we have, and it's a product that's easy for me to really share with you, the user. So for me, it's the product knowledge of what we're trying to show, and we know we want to do more. So stay tuned for a lot of our videos coming forth, because we want to obviously provide with more insight. But through these next couple of weeks, especially with the Fantastic Fall Festival, that is where you can really get the best product knowledge, free giveaways. Yes. And then on November 6th, the granddaddy of them all, which is that automation 19-inch professional frame, all that's given away. So that's exciting.
Really quick, I thought we would, I just thought I would show this. If everybody's okay, I wanted to bring this up. This is our website. I know that this comes up periodically from different individuals, and yeah, this is the computer. But if you were to go to YouTube and you find the Grace Company, which is what we're looking at here, Grace Company Fine Quilting Products, there is the subscribe button. So I'm already subscribed, you can see, because I do follow our business and our company. And on the right is a bell. If we click this bell, this will go ahead and allow us to set up notifications so that when we put out a new video or we're going to stream something like this, it goes ahead and flags you. And we have the same type of option for your Facebook when you're in there, where you can go and follow our brand, and that way you're informed if you haven't already done so that you can be part of our community. We have a lot more videos coming up, again, more streaming days. Outside of that, we have a lot of other things that are educational that come along with helping individuals quilt. And then we also, I thought I'll put together a couple more presentations on things like other tools that are out there in the industry that people are using with domestic machines, amongst more. So I thought I would just share that again, so that we kind of can know that that's out there, and that's an easy thing to do to follow. If you're on your mobile device, usually there's just an easy subscribe button, which is what everybody calls for on the YouTube. So thanks again for your participation with that. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring back up the screen and read a little bit about the next our next individuals who are going to be coming on. Jill Cooper and Sherri Hofland from Match Point Quilting, the quilting studio. This is newer for them, and came across them with a couple questions that came to be with them starting part of a business with two individuals looking to get into quilting. And they're actually just going to do a few things from kind of the beginning. What does it look like when somebody starts and builds the frame and they put some fabric on there in order to engage with the quilting machine? So the overview is, if you're new to long arm quilting or thinking of purchasing a long arm, you'll love this workshop. It says join Jill and Sherri as they walk through a step-by-step checklist to load the quilt on the long arm for beginners, from winding bobbins to threading the machine, checking tension, loading the bobbins, oiling that bobbin case, which happens periodically about every 3 to 5 bobbins, and more, starting with measuring and trimming and quilting. So I thought that would be a fun thing for us to watch.
Hi, welcome to Match Point Quilt Studio. My name is Jill.
And I'm Sherri. And we are dear friends who share a love of sewing. And we met on a tennis court.
Well, I have been sewing for many years, but I only recently began quilting. I took advantage of my time at home during the beginning of the COVID crisis, and I finally decided to start the hobby I've wanted to do for many years. And I fell in love.
And Jill's enthusiasm was catching. I too had been sewing since I was a little girl, not having made very many quilts. But with her third quilt top that she made, I decided that that was an opportunity for me to try some hand quilting. So I'm in the process of hand quilting that quilt top.
So hand quilting isn't so much for me, and I wanted a Longarm machine. So just like that, we bought a Longarm machine.
And 4 weeks ago, 14 boxes arrived with our product. We bought from the Grace Company a Qnique 21 Pro machine with a 12-foot continuum frame, and we also have the QCT5 beginning software.
We were able to hit the ground running with huge thanks to Janet George and Leah Day for their online tutorials that have been super helpful. We appreciate those very much.
So if you're new to quilting or a Longarm machine is new to you, join us and we'll make our way in this journey together.
Once you have finished piecing your quilt top, you will want to square it up and press it. Measure your quilt top, cut your backing at least 10 inches wider and 10 inches longer than the quilt top. The batting should be cut 8 to 10 inches wider and 8 to 10 inches longer than your quilt top. Once you have the quilt top, batting, and backing prepared, you are now ready to load them onto your frame.
I'm going to thread the machine with some Omni thread. We've also used Finesse and Isocord, and in our experience, we've had good results with all three. So place the cone onto the cone holder, go up the thread mask and through the top guide. We're coming at that from behind both times. Be sure to get the thread between the two discs. Again, your thread is going between two discs, then around the spring. One more guide there before we get to the needle. Be sure not to miss the little eyelet above the needle. And then through the needle. When attaching the backing to the leader cloth, we use 1 3/4 inch T-pins. And we start from the center and work out to the left and then go back to the center and work out to the right. We like to start with pins placed about every 4 to 5 inches, which you'll see that lines up with the straight lines that are printed on this Grace Company leader cloth. And then after we've done the entire width, we go back and add a second pin between each of those first pins, and it holds it very securely. We are pinning the bottom of the backing to the bottom leader cloth. So you find your center of your cloth, line it up to a center point that you've measured out and marked on your leader cloth, and that will be the same every time. And it's the same distance from the edge of your rail to this point as it is on the top leader cloth. So then we match up the edge of the fabric to the edge of the leader cloth, and we place a pin at the dots. And then we're going to do that at every line and come back and put pins in the middle. We work from the center out, just as we did on the top leader cloth. Your pins will end up being tip to head.
Once the backing has been completely pinned on both leader cloths, we will roll the backing back and forth until we end up with a nice taut backing. And now we're ready to add the batting.
When you power up your machine, the screen looks like this. It comes on in regulated precise stitch mode. We have 10 stitches per inch, and you can change that by clicking on a plus sign to increase the stitches per inch or the minus sign to decrease the stitches per inch. We also have a needle up and needle down function. We use that for pulling the bobbin. We can step through the different stitch modes with this arrow right here. So going forward, we have regulated cruise and we have baste. We're going to stay on base in the default settings to do our basting stitch.
Center batting along the width of the backing, aligning the top edge of the batting with the edge of the leader cloth about 1 inch away. Now baste the batting to the backing. Use the channel lock on the carriage to establish a row of stitches parallel to the rails. Place the quilt top on top of the batting, centering it along the width. Align the top of the quilt top with the row of basting stitches. Smooth out the quilt top and baste along the top and down both sides.
Now that we've basted, we're going to go ahead and start stitching, and we're going to stitch in the or close to the ditch of this white square. We can change our stitch mode by hitting this button right here, this little tiny button. That's the default. That can be changed, but we've kept it as the default. So if I click on that, the stitch mode changes. And I'm going to cycle through manual speed until I get to regulated precise. And I'm going to use regulated precise because it uses the encoders that are on your carriage, and that will keep 10 stitches per inch. And it does not matter what your speed is. And when you stop moving the machine will stop stitching. Just as an overview, this button right here will take you into the settings screen and will toggle you into and out of the settings screen. And then the big button on the left is needle up, needle down. And I'm going to do that right now to pull the bobbin. So I click it, it goes down, it clicks back up, and now I can pull the bobbin. The 3 other buttons on the right-hand handlebar are to increase the number of stitches per inch, so it'll go up to 11, or decrease the number of stitches per inch. We can go back to 10. And then the big button is your start and stop button. So we are going to start. And it will now start stitching. And it is going at the speed with which I am moving the handlebars. And I'm just keeping my eye on the ditch, and I am stitching all the way down. And then when I get to the corner, I will stop and the machine will stop. And now I can move to the right and it will start back up again.
We're going to use regulated precise mode and 10 stitches per inch to do a little meandering around the border of this quilt. I'm turning it on with the hand controller. And we'll just get her started.
We are going to go step by step through the process of quilting an edge-to-edge, non-nested pantograph.
We have loaded a new quilt, and we're going to quilt it using QCT5 Beginnings.
The software comes up, it asks you if your needle is up. Once you've checked that, you can click OK to confirm. You want to make sure that your machine is roughly in the middle of your frame because it does move around a bit and you don't want it to bang into anything. The first thing it does when it comes up, it brings you the selection. We're going to do a pantograph today, so we're going to hit the pantograph button. And now it's going to ask us for our safe area. So you're going to move your machine to the very upper left corner that it would be possible to quilt. Click on the button. Now it prompts you for the bottom right corner, and so you're going to take it to the bottom right and hit OK, that button right there. Now we've established a safe area. That is the area with which this machine can move. And because we have a 21-inch arm on this machine, we have a safe area that goes from 1 liter cloth down to the second one, but it can only go so far because the bottom will bump into that. And that total height for our machine is 16.129 inches. Now we would like to establish our quilting area, and we're going to do that with the ruler function. Very similar to the safe area, except now you're going to move it to the upper left-hand corner of your quilt, which is your quilting area. So we're putting it in the very top corner, and we hit half of that ruler, the left half of the ruler, and then we're going to come down and measure down to the outer bottom and hit that button. This will give us a quilt width. And I'm going to slide this to the center because now we're going to mark the center of the quilt, and the machine will do that for us by hitting this button with a little machine symbol on it. It's going to move, so it's going to first ask you if your needle is up, and it is, so we're going to say OK, and now it's going to move to the center. When it gets to the center, we're going to place a little mark. I'm going to place that right underneath the needle, and I'm going to jog the needle down just to help me find that. I'm going to put a little dot with a water-soluble marker. Make sure you move your needle, jog your needle back up. Now you can hit Apply Measurement, and it will show you a rectangular box, and that is that entire area that you've just marked out for quilting. And it will tell you the width is 45.289 inches and the height is 16.129 inches again. So the safe area is selected and the quilt area has been established, and we want to go and select a pattern. You can do that in either of two places, either right here or down here. So I'm going to click that button, and I know that my pattern that we want to select is in this batch folder, and it's called Maggie's Rose, which we purchased from Urban Elements. And I click on that and hit open. And it's going to bring it in, and it's going to bring it in to the area that we established as our quilt area. Now, for this particular quilt, we do not want a giant rose pattern like that. We would like it a little bit smaller. But one way that you could see the true size as established by the designer is to hit this middle row of hearts.
We are now going to do some calculations to determine the number of pattern and number of rows that we would like to stitch within each zone. We have removed our tablet from the machine, and we have also started running it in simulation mode so that we can work on it while we are no longer standing at the machine. This is the pattern that we have established, and this is how it comes into the program when we first uploaded it. I'm going to switch this over to show an individual pattern. We've determined, based on our quilt, that we would like 2 rows within each zone. In doing that, we also obviously need to repeat a few more patterns. We'll increase it until we see something that looks fairly full. Then we can switch back to see what it will look like when they are now connected and stretched to fill both rows within the zone. Now let's get a little bit more specific. We currently have our total height as the maximum quilting height, which then creates 2 equally spaced rows. These numbers aren't as clean as I would like. We know our total height of the quilt, which is 46 inches. We're going to use that information so that this total height will fall within the 46 inches, leaving nothing extra. No partial rows will be at the top or the bottom of the quilt. Nice and tidy. So we will now look over here at the calculator. We are going to enter our 46-inch height. And we know that we want to do it in multiples of 2 because we have 2 rows in each zone. So we can look to see how high would the pattern be if we only did, let's just say we had 4 rows total with our quilt. Each row would be 11.5 inches. And we're doing 2 rows in each zone, which would be 23 inches. We don't even have that much space to work with. So 4 is not going to be an option. So let's take 46 and divide it then by 6. This leaves us with 7.6 inches. This is potentially doable. So 77.6 times 2 is 15.3. So we are going to try 8 rows. 46 divided by 8 is 5.75. What that means is each pattern height would need to be 5.75. The total height, I'm going to multiply times 2 to get the height of my zone, 11.5. Simple enough. I still like to use the calculator. 11.5. So each row has a full pattern and each zone has 2 rows. The total height is going to be 11.5. We have chosen to use 4 zones to complete our 46-inch quilt top.
We've put our pattern, 2 rows of patterns up here, but we might be curious to see how much space is actually in between some of those stitching lines. And you can do that by putting up the grid. If you click on options, there's a box here that says show grid. And I click on it, say okay. We have to zoom in order to see that grid a little bit. So I'm going to click this plus button, which will let us zoom in. And now you'll see that there's a light blue grid overlaid. I'll zoom in a little bit more. Now in some of these areas, you can see there's about an inch, maybe an inch by an inch and a half. Some of these are 1 by 1. Nothing too large.
I think that it's nice to know that when you zoom in and you're looking at it closely, we haven't actually moved the pattern. It's cutting it off up here at the top, it's cutting it off at the bottom, but not really. It's just the zoom window. You can see that you can move it around and take a closer look at any area within your pattern.
You could really get up close. And if you want to go back to its original, so that you see the whole quilt area, you can hit fit. And now we're back in there. So that's looking at your grid. Now I'm going to exit out of my zoom. We like this. We want to save it now. And we want to save it so that when we go through our rows 3 and 4, our next pass, we don't have to create this over again. So there's a save function right here. We're going to click save. We've already saved it once, but I'm going to go ahead and click on Jill's roses, and we're going to hit save. Because the file already exists, it's going to ask if we want to overwrite. We do. I'm going to hit yes. And now we've saved the file for future use. We're going to press the Sew in Zones button. It connects to the machine from the software. And it's going to ask us if we want to save it, but because I've already saved it, I'm going to say no. And now you see the stitching pattern laid out in the save area. There are a couple of different ways that you can place this on your quilt, and that's handled in the Zone Manager. So we're going to click on Zone Manager. Yes, I want to go to the Zone Manager. Now I can toggle through either placing it based on the center point, which you see by that yellow dot, or you could do a 4-point placement. Because I've marked the center point, I want to place it with this method. This is grayed out because we only are stitching in one zone. This would be if you had multiple zones. However, this is an important button because this tells us how we're going to stitch our rows within the zone. This one says all of the rows are going to be stitched from left to right. This one says they're going to alternate. Or this one's going to alternate, but they're going to connect on the side. And that's the one we've chosen because it will stitch across left to right, come down the right side, and then stitch back across.
Because that far right-hand side is going to be encased in binding in the future.
So we won't see that stitching that comes down.
Right. That's why we chose that option.
Click OK. So now we will place the pattern. Move to your center area. Click that button, and now it's locked that pattern to the center point.
Sherri just clicked this button.
The last thing that we do is optimize the pattern. And this is going to show you any thread breaks. However, for this one, we don't have any thread breaks. We have one continuous stitching path from the left to the right, down, and then back to the left. And this number represents that single stitching pass. The green dot is where your needle is going to start, and the red dot is where the needle is going to end. We can check for any breaks by hitting that button, but we don't have any. We can also animate our stitching so that you can see that, which is kind of fun. So start stitching, highlights where it's going in blue all the way to the end.
In the future, we have the option of tracing our design, very similar to animating the stitching, but it actually moves the machine as opposed to just showing it on the screen.
Exactly. And now when you get to the end, it's going to ask if you want to connect your first and last points. We do not wish to connect those first and last points, so we're going to say no. And now we're all done with that. And we can say okay. Before we sew, sometimes we use this trace button. And what it's going to do is it's going to actually move the machine around where the pattern is going to be stitched. And then you can see if anything falls outside of your quilt area, which it shouldn't, but it's a possibility. You can see how things are lined up. And especially on this first pass, we kind of like to do it travels over, and that's where it's going to start stitching. And I'm happy with that, Jill. How about you?
I think it looks good.
And now it just basically follows along.
Okay.
And once you're satisfied that it looks like it's in a good place, you can hit this big stop button. But we are going to pull our bobbin. It's going to ask that the needle is up, which it is, so we say okay. It's going to go to the spot of the first stitch point. And you essentially follow the directions. Grace has made it really easy with this software. It's going to say press single stitch. We press a single stitch. Goes up and down. I usually just grab the bobbin thread because it does pop up there. And then I hold these two to get it started underneath the foot.
Let's see this happen. Sew.
And now we're gonna hit sew. So during our first pass, we noticed a difference in sound of our machine. And that difference was because that we ran out of bobbin thread. So, can you see this is where our last stitch was? And I got to the big stop button just in time to stop it right there. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the machine and release the carriage. So now it's free to move around. I'm going to clip the top thread. Joe, can you hand me the scissors over there? Thank you. Move the machine to the side of the quilt. Reach underneath into the carriage and pull the bobbin out. And you'll see there's no thread on that bobbin. And this is a good opportunity just to make sure we don't have any lint. Lint can throw off your tension. It can make things not real pretty. So we use our little brush and just make sure everything's pretty clean. I don't see too much in there. I'm also going to look down here and pull out any lint that is accumulated inside the bobbin area. And actually we have a little bit of lint in there. We're going to oil the bobbin carriage. It's recommended to do this after you replace 2 bobbins. And that's where we're at right now. And there's a place right here after you've put your machine or your needle down. Now we're going to wind the bobbin. We take it up through the loop at the top of the mast, through the 2 guides starting from the front of the machine going to the back. It loops around and you go through the second hole from the front of the machine to the back of the machine. It's a little hard to get it through there sometimes. Success. Now pull it back through the eyelet at the bobbin tension. And when you get it through that little hole, it then goes between 2 discs. And then you want to wrap it around your bobbin about 5 times, underneath and around again. I learned that little trick from watching a Leah Day video, and it holds your thread on there nice. You push the lever and it starts to wind. It's a fairly quick process, and once it's done, it will snap to stop the winding. Pull your bobbin off and there's a little thread cutter attached to the machine that you can cut your thread.
Okay, we've wound a couple bobbins so that we're ready to go now. We're going to put the bobbin back into the bobbin case. If you hold the bobbin so that the thread comes off in a counterclockwise direction, and then you hold the bobbin case like this. Let's show them. There you go. So there's the top where the thread's going to be threaded through. You're going to want to thread it until it clicks into that little open space. And now we're going to fix the tension to make sure it's perfectly right. Oh, there we go. So one of the tests is to have the bobbin laying on its side. Oops, like this. And then you pull on the thread and it should stand up. But it should not be lifted off your hand. That means we're good to go.
And I'm lifting the thread and it is just coming off. If I lower this hand, you can see it still stays just on there. So our tension is good.
Now we're ready to place this back into the machine. We will not pull this little lever on the bobbin case. We're just going to insert it until we hear a click, just like that. And we're ready to go. Let's make sure. One of the other tests we can do is to pull on the thread, make sure that it comes off nice and uniformly and there's no catches along the way. We're in good shape.
Bobbin is loaded and we're going to move the machine back to an area that's closest to the last stitch that we're keeping. I backed a few stitches out just to have a little bit of a longer bobbin thread so that when we go to knot that and bury it, we can do that. On the screen, there is a repair function and it looks like this little band-aid. So we're going to click that. And it's going to ask us to, how do we want to put it? Do we want to go to the last stitch or the closest stitch? Well, the last stitch was without thread, so we're going to go to the closest stitch. So I'm going to place this over the area that was closest to the stitch that I wanted to pick up from.
Press the closest stitch button. The machine will then move to the stitch that is closest to the current needle position. Tap the screen to acknowledge the instructional message, then pull the bobbin. The machine's really clever in that it can remember where exactly to go back to catch up with any missed stitches. We're just pulling bobbin again, just like you do when you're starting out a row of stitches.
Gonna hold all those threads out of the way and press sew. The first zone is finished. Now we're gonna pull our bobbin. It asks if the needle is up, and it is. First thing you do is move your needle away. We grab the thread, we press move back.
That's just the top thread that Sherri has right now.
We take a single stitch, and you can see that the bobbin is pulled up right there. You can move away and grab it, or if it's right there, sometimes I just grab it. It's just as easy. And then you clip this off. Thanks, Jill. Press the back button, so we're not finished yet. Now we can proceed to the next zone. We're finished with this one. We're going to proceed to the next zone, and it is going to put this at the center top of the next zone so we can mark it. We're going to mark it with our water-soluble pen again. I like to jog the needle down just so that I can really see where it's hitting or where it would hit. Put a little mark, jog the needle back up, press continue. It's going to ask us if we really continue because we didn't use any of its methods. And yes, because I already did mark it, I'm going to say yes and continue. And now we are ready to advance the quilt and move on to the second zone.
Okay, now that our first zone is finished, we are going to progress the quilt so that we can stitch the next zone. I like to move the machine off the quilt top for this. And we will unlock these rails so that we can roll it up. Here we go. I like to keep an eye on the pattern and that we've stitched and kind of eyeball it so that I know we've got plenty of room for our next zone. I'm going to tighten these guys down.
After smoothing out the batting and the quilt top, we continued to stitch the subsequent zones, repeating the process as described in Zone 1 to complete the quilt top.
We hope you found this information useful, and thank you for watching.
See you next time.
Bye!
Wonderful. That was great, fun, and again, really appreciate Jill and Sherri and all their efforts and their initiatives. It came to be, as we're planning out this festival, we kind of just did a reach out to some of the people that follow us on Facebook and a few other things, and they came back and said, hey, here's our experience. This is what we're going through. We'd love to share some of that with everybody, and obviously did so. They're getting into a little bit different part of what they're doing from a business perspective. So still fun to hear what their bit is with part of the setup and the use. And a lot of comments said it's good to see part of these processes that look simple. Automation is easy. Carla and Mark, I know that you briefly did and shared some of those. Any other thoughts about Sherri and Jill and their experience they shared with us?
Well, it's fun to see them jump right in and take hold and just take the process and learn as you're getting started. You have to start somewhere, and you improve with every quilt.
What would you share? Sorry, Mark, coming in. I'm not trying to cut you off, but maybe Carla, finish. What would you share to encourage people to start? What would be some of your words of advice on that?
Don't be afraid. Overcome that fear. You have to start somewhere, and yes, you will make mistakes. We all do, and you're not going to have that perfect quilt right out, and you may never have that perfect quilt, but the process is so much fun and so enjoyable that if you don't ever start, you won't understand and grow to appreciate how far you come from your very first quilt that you do to your 120th quilt that you've quilted, and just enjoy the process. Just learn from it and take hold and don't overcome that fear. That's the biggest thing. I just want you to overcome that fear and know that, yeah, it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to do a boo-boo, and those are appreciated and enjoy, and they're a good story. So that's my words of advice.
Carla, that's a home run right there. That's a home run pitch, because you're exactly right. When you make mistakes, that's your quilt. And for the most part, I think a lot of the quilters out there, when they do that, they feel a part of that quilt because it was something that they did, whether it was right or wrong, it was their quilt. And you're right. They can look back and it, from start to finish, you finish the quilt, good or bad. So you nailed that. That was like home run. That was
Don't get me wrong. I have unpicked a lot, but I hate the unpicking part, but I have learned with every quilt that I quilt, and I'm still learning. I mean, here I've been quilting for years and years and years, and my quilting is improving with every project that I do and I work on. And that knowledge, I don't care if you're an award-winning quilter, you still have something to learn. And you still can learn from you as our customers. And we can take that advice and make better products. And that's what we really appreciate.
Thank you. Appreciate that and your comments of support. And I think, Carla, that's probably one of the biggest things when we have customers come to us. And you know this, we've been to multiple shows over the years, and somebody buys a product, they're excited, they get the frame, and we hear that it's still in a box.
Oh, yes.
Not a good thing. And that happened, I think, more so with our wood frames back in the day than we do with a lot of what we have. And I obviously know we didn't have the same kind of videos and the content that we had in order to help drive and promote and push and provide the inspiration for our users out there as well. So I thought maybe what we can do is go and do a shout out to everybody who's streaming with us right now and see if there are any additional questions that have come. I'm trying to look through and see what I'd like to add up.
There's also another thing, Nathan, if I could add.
Go ahead.
So a couple of comments, Way full stamper, I believe that's it. She says no one should be scared using beginnings now, So
No.
what they did, and it's exactly right. So they were showing beginnings, how easy it was to do the pantograph. And Joy, you're absolutely right. So no one should be scared anymore. And then I saw one on there, Diane Child. She says she's looking to buy her Quilting 15 Pro and frame by the end of the week. So congratulations.
Awesome. You'll love it.
And yeah, right there. So that's fantastic, and that's what we want. I mean, that's huge when you as a user are buying a product, from what and you're buying it from a great company. You're going to be part of the Grace family, and so we'll support all the way down.
Yeah, my mom had a lot of kids, so it's nice to see her family grow even more. And she's not with us any longer, but Houston was a big part of who she is and going to the shows, and she loved interacting with all of you quilters, and I'm just so proud and so happy that we can carry on the tradition of quilting and move that tradition forward, even with our younger generation. And that's what we want. We want to include everyone.
Just so everybody knows, the treasure hunt, we have already had 4 people claiming prizes. That started this morning. We'll talk about that here in a minute again. But if you look at our website, up on the top-hand side, there's this resource option. If you click on that resource, you'll notice that there's instructions, and we have support videos and some tutorials. So in here, Carla, and we have some older videos as well that show loading the fabric, managing the fabric on frame. So we'd encourage you to go there. We're also going to encourage you to go to the Grace Frames YouTube and look on our YouTube. We have a lot of videos in here, and there's been several that have come from the Fall Festival. We have a whole bunch that have to pertain to the Q-Zone hoop frame, a lot of other supporting items from our ambassadors, and then other detailed things that talk about loading fabric and much more on all the different frames as well. So those are a couple things that we would love to have you come in and enjoy. Really quick, I thought I would touch on this. We do have promotions going on right now. We have a lot of specials going on. And we're excited to be able to have those. And with some of that, I thought I would go ahead and just show and share everybody. Right now, one of our most popular machines is the Quilting 15 machine. And we do have some promotions. If you buy the machine, you get a free frame. You get a free Q-Zone Queen frame or the Q-Zone hoop frame with that. We have a manual machine. We have the regulated machine. Then we have the Pro, which includes regulation and a touch screen in that Pro frame. And you can see the pricing there, anywhere from about $3,500 to about $5,000 for that combination. Now, remember, that does come with a frame as well. It's part of that kit. We have 19-inch machines. This machine is become very, very popular because it's a great piece and a stretch going between the 15 and like a 21 or 21 Pro that seems to be more of a professional grade. This one we say looks familiar, like you want to bring it into your home. Earlier we did a segment where we walked through some of the different features in these machines. I'd encourage you to go back and watch that. Again, that machine currently the sell with that is if you buy the machine $6,999, you're going to get a free frame as well, and that's the Q-Zone Hoop Frame Pro. So that's a little bit of a different frame than comes with the 15. And then on our 21, we have a 21 and our 21 Pro. This particular product is our top end product, and you saw Jill there was using that earlier. Leah Day was also using this. A lot of the people with that bigger 5-inch touchscreen, faster stitching speeds. This combo, if you buy the machine, you're going to get a free continuum frame, and you can choose between the 8, 10, or the 12. And with the 21 and the 19, we're also adding on these combos a free luminous light bar. We gave some of those away earlier as well. Those are great light bars that allow you to float that. In fact, behind Mark and Carla here, I'm going to go ahead and bring them up so you can see Mark and Carla.
I'll turn it on.
We got the light bar here behind them. You can turn that off. That light bar has continued to work amazingly well, and that would be part of that combo when you're looking at that 21-inch machine. That's included with the free frame when you purchase that machine as well. So shout out to go ahead and take a look at these. Find a local dealer or a retailer, and you can do so by going to graceframe.com, and at the very top we have a dealer locator. And then feel free also to call us. One of the other things that we have is you can give us a call at our 800 number, 1-800-264-0644. With this, as we're continuing to go through, we'd encourage anybody to put some comments. What are some of the other questions that you have regarding some of the things that you've seen today, or for Grace Frame in general regarding the frames or machines? We would love to go ahead and answer some of those live with those of you that are streaming with us as well. So I love this comment, Mark. Maybe I'll throw this one out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, Debbie, she's getting one for Christmas.
Nice.
Merry Christmas, Debbie.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you on that. We hope some of you, the others out there, want it for Christmas as well. That'd be great. I talk about this with our international partners that are out there and our dealers. Again, bringing this kind of back to COVID, a little bit of a spin twist is what I'd call it. Is we didn't probably get the same vacations that we were used to, and what we found is that that money is being reused potentially for home upgrades, home modifications, renovations, big appliances. And I would say bringing a vacation home to you in the form of a Grace Frame combo, maybe. That would be a good one you can do. Get a quilting system if you want. We can get automation out of that as well. So thank you, Debbie, for part of that one. So today we're doing a treasure hunt. And this treasure hunt is started, and it will go through the end of the week, partly through Halloween on Friday, I believe, is when we're going to end this. But what this is you can go into the quilt, so the quilt show and tell, and if we're inside of the quilting area, what we can do is when you're in the gallery and you're browsing, what you're going to find out is as you're browsing as part of this process, there are going to be periodically, we have some of the promotions that we have going on, and like here's one of those promotions that's showing up right now on what the current sell is, but one of those might pop up, hey, you've won, and you can select and enter your information in order to redeem your prize. So again, know that we're doing that to help encourage those to participate in viewing all the amazing quilts that are out there. We want you to comment on them. We have all sorts of fun comments and information when we've seen everybody who's participated, and still you can upload them. If you're coming into your quilt here, just go ahead and submit your quilt. Put your quilt in there and get a chance to win. Carla, maybe if you can share one more time with all of us what we're doing. We've added one more prize. So right now we're going to be doing $100 first place, a $50 second, and a $25 third place. And this is for the amount of votes that quilts get. So encourage your friends, send them a link to come. When you're in on the quilt, you can just share that link or copy it so that you can get your friends and others to come and participate in voting for your quilt as well, submitting them. But we're going to choose that by everybody out there who's viewing. I think we just have over under 1,800 quilts that are in the different categories. And then we have a major big cash giveaway of $500, which will be a random drawing for anybody who enters it. Carla, I know we decided you came up with an idea of how to give away an additional cash award prize as well. Maybe just share that with us a little bit here.
Oh yeah, I added a new category. Well, not a new category, a new founders prize. My sweet sister-in-law, who is married to my brother, Jim, who is owner of the company, she is going to pick out her favorite quilt out of all the categories and present that prize. And so I'm very excited because she is a lovely person and just the sweetest, most patient woman in the world. She is, however, married to my brother, and so that patience comes in very handy. And she's by herself right now raising her kids because my sweet brother is in China keeping the company going. So, I'm very excited. And hopefully next week, we will be having her here, and she can tell a little bit about her story and her life and how she got started in the quilting business with my brother out of her father-in-law's garage. So it's a great story, and she's going to be here to welcome you as part of the Grace family. So very excited about that.
Wonderful, Carla. I appreciate you, kind of thinking about what else we can do. I like to kind of refer to this. We don't really have an award, but oftentimes there's what is referred to kind of as a founder or someone who's helped start part of that business. And so maybe we can look at that. We'll probably update that here on the site as well. But just know that's something we've just decided here recently that we thought we would do. Again, Carla, thanks for the participation. Like everybody who's streaming with us, we would encourage you to continue to, put through in your recommendations. We did a shout out last week where we mentioned that our engineering team, you saw our tour this morning. Excited for you to see that again. We're all open about trying to understand what it is that you're looking for. What are the biggest challenges that you have within finishing the quilt? Right now, our business really surrounds helping you finish the quilt and putting those together. What kind of features would you like to see on machines? What about that on frames? Our goal is to help continuously innovate those type of things. What does that mean for automation? Our systems and our products are what they are today because of your insights. One of the biggest we have on our computer automated side is we have a way in part of our premium version called Gold to combine all of the borders. And the reason that it happens is a customer, one of our quilters was like, it's a smart enough system. Is there a reason that it just can't automatically build the whole top part of the quilt for you? And we looked at it and I thought, well, probably. Went to our programmer and of course, yeah, we know the space. Why don't we just help make that a little bit easier for a consumer so that it can start and build and then quilt that top part. So again, going back, thank you for your comments and your informations and your insights. It's really one of the things that we love, and it's one of the things that helps drive our business there. So let's go maybe look at a couple questions here. Thanks for some prizes. We're having somebody share with us on that. Here's an interesting one, Carl. I thought this maybe is one that you can answer here, asking about finishing part of the quilt towards the bottom end. Maybe you can share your insights on that for us.
Oh, yeah. What I do is you always want to make your backing wider and longer. And so as you're rolling the quilt, you want to make sure that your backing is attached to a leader or an extension piece of fabric. And then when I get to the bottom, I will roll it and I will tack it down. You can either baste it or actually sew around the edges to hold it down. And that's how I finish the quilt. So yeah, I tack it all the way along, even on the rolling frame, on the hoop frame. So it's not going to shift or move on me. So when I move on the hoop frame to that next section, if it's an outer edge, I'm tacking it down. Same thing on the rolling frame here.
And there's also a question as well, Nathan and Carla. Connie, we go over the machines as well with the differences. This is, stuff like this could be also, it was perfect for our website. We can go and find the differences. But Connie, the difference between the 21 and the 21 Pro is the 21 has an OLED screen.
Right.
It's basically an informational bit that reads the output of exactly what you're doing. So your stitches per inch, how fast you're stitching. So just like I said, it gives the output on the screen. Whereas the 21 Pro, that has a 5-inch touchscreen. The 21, it stitches 1,800 per minute. The 21 Pro does 2,600 per minute. So it's quite a bit faster. And then with that touchscreen, the 21 Pro, it has a few other features built into it that you can't find in any other screens that we have. So the 21 Pro is actually our top of the line. It has new everything. The handlebars are the same. So great question on that one, Connie. And then any other differences with our product too, if you have them on there, we don't get to it, feel free to go to our website where you can find those differences or give us a call as well. We'll be happy to answer those questions.
Here's another one.
And then Kathleen, is there an online manual for the software update?
Yes, that's what I've been working on for COVID. It's taken a long time, but yes, you can call. We can send you a PDF if you don't have it right now. It would be several emails because it is a big file right now, but it's very exciting. And I have done it through my eyes as a quilter. So not only am I explaining how it works and why it does it, but how to use it. So you get all of that with that manual. So make sure that you call in or contact us and we'll get that to you.
With that, I'd also kind of like to bring this out there regarding this is that is some new information in your QCT5. If you have an update, we're going to take a look in your help section. So we're not going to explain a lot, but there's an option help up top. We've added tutorials and help files along with videos now. So there's this new process that we've now implemented in order to give you better access to not only that, but anytime there is a new tutorial. Carla has worked through several of the new updates regarding some instructions and some walkthroughs on how to experience the software. So I'd also encourage you to make sure, if you don't have it online, to check online, because you can go pull down any new content that falls into the help under tutorials, helps, and some others. So go ahead and take a look at that as well. That's a fun place to go look at. So I thought I'd just bring that up with everybody as we kind of finish and get ready to move on here.